The dreaded weight loss plateau. I've had a lot of people asking me about this. I have done a live on this. We are talking about it because a weight loss plateau is going to happen regardless if you are on a medication or not. It is a natural part of the weight loss journey. But I think before we really get into what you do about a weight loss plateau, we need to define what exactly it is. You see, a lot of people think they are in a plateau, but the reality is either they're not being patient enough or their weight loss has ultimately slowed down compared to what they were losing previously. So a weight loss plateau, to give you like a lovely little graph here, is basically occurring after a period of weight loss where the weight is going down, and then the plateau is exactly what a plateau is. It is a point where the weight loss is no longer occurring. It has flattened out, as you can see on the curve here. And so your weight is no longer moving down. It is staying relatively the same, maybe plus or minus a couple of pounds on either side. But if you were to look at your curve over a period of time, it would essentially be flat. There would be no trend downwards, it would just be flat. Now, as I've already alluded to, a lot of people will say they're at a plateau because they didn't lose any weight after 1 week. Maybe the scale stayed the same, or maybe it even went up. Whereas others will say that they're at a plateau after a couple of weeks, or maybe even a couple of months of their weight staying relatively the same. That latter group is the one that is correct and ultimately more realistic. In fact, I can guarantee that along your weight loss journey, you are not going to lose weight every single week or every single day. That is just the reality of weight loss. And if you think that every time you step on that scale, it is supposed to be going down, well, you are setting an unrealistic expectation that is ultimately setting you up for failure. So now that we've talked about what most people are thinking a plateau is, let's talk specifically about what my definition of a plateau is. For me, I define a plateau as a period of no change in weight for at least 4 weeks. And a very important part is that over the course of this 4 weeks, you have continued to be consistent with the dietary patterns and the activity levels that you were doing prior to this plateau period occurring. So if you haven't been consistent and you've been eating more or moving less, well then you're not at a plateau, you're just not consistently following your dietary patterns, and therefore you're no longer losing weight. And it very well could be that you're following a lifestyle that is not sustainable for you. And so, if indeed you are on your weight loss journey and you've been losing weight, and then for a period of 4 weeks, the curve is then flattening out, as you can see in this graph right here, it is flattened out over that period of 4 weeks, you are then at a plateau. There is no trend downwards, there is no going from a sharp curve and then to a little bit less sharp curve. It is flat and your weight is staying the same despite doing exactly the same things that were allowing you to lose weight previously. Now, a question that often people ask is, why do I use 4 weeks within my definition of a plateau? And that's because losing weight is a process. The more weight that you lose, the slower your future weight loss is going to be. And so if you have an expectation that you're going to lose 1 pound or 2 pounds every single week, week over week, well, again, you are setting yourself up for an unrealistic expectation and ultimately setting yourself up for failure. And to show you another nice illustration here, if we look at this graph right here, what you can see is that, yeah, there might be a sharper weight loss at the start, and then it gets a little bit more downwards, if you will. More downwards, that doesn't make any sense, but just go with me on this. And then further, as you further go out, that trend line is going to be less and less sharp on a downward angle. You're still losing weight, but that weight loss is occurring more slowly over time. If you think it's going to be occurring at the same rate as this initial weight loss, you need to check that expectation. So that 4 weeks is important because it really allows us to determine whether we're actually at a plateau or whether the weight loss is just occurring at a slower rate, but overall our trend is still going downwards. And again, if you look at this picture here, you can see that blue line there is the trend that is going downwards. And this is why I always talk about The trend is your friend. And so if it is still going down, you are still losing weight, and that is ultimately showing you're not at a plateau. What you need to do if the scale and the trend is still going down, you don't need to change anything. We really don't want to try and speed things up, because then we're going to get into a territory of unsustainability. What you need to do is you just need to keep going and doing what you're doing. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone over the definitions, let's actually say you are indeed experiencing a plateau. What do we do? How do we manage it? And how do we get over it? And before I dive into that, if you're getting some value out of this video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. And of course, check me out on my other channels at The Official Dr. Dan. And as always, share this with your friends and people you think might benefit from it. So if after 4 weeks the scale is not moving, you are indeed in a plateau, what fundamentally is happening here is that you are no longer in a calorie deficit. Remember that in order to lose weight, your calories that are going in must be less than the calories that are going out. So if you're not moving, if your scale is not going down, well, you are currently eating a calorie in that is equal to the calories that you are burning. And this is ultimately going to occur for multiple reasons along your weight loss journey. It's going to occur because, one, you're physically smaller, so just by simply existing, you are burning fewer calories because you've lost weight. As well, your body is going to metabolically adapt. Not only is your body going to try and become more efficient and slow down how many calories it burns by simply existing, it's also going to get you to twitch and move less because it wants to conserve and preserve as much fat tissue as it possibly can. So in order to bust through a weight loss plateau, you must then create a calorie deficit. You either need to consume fewer calories than what you currently are, or you need to increase your activity level in order to get your calories that are going in being less than your calories that are going out. I mean, that sounds easy enough, right? Just make a few tweaks and changes and boom, the weight loss can continue to occur, right? Well, maybe not. So before you embark on making a whole bunch of changes in order to lose more weight, you really need to do a bit of a self-assessment. As I've already said, the more weight that you lose, the harder it's going to be to lose further weight, and the harder it's going to be to maintain that weight loss. And so if you want to eat less food, if you want to increase your activity, you might be able to make some quick changes and get that weight loss continuing to go forward. However, if you continue to lose more and more weight, well, that means you're going to have to pay closer and closer attention to what it is that you're eating. That means you're going to have to probably increase your activity level on a more consistent basis. And it also means that you might have to make more sacrifices. So it might mean you're reducing how much alcohol you're consuming. It might be having fewer dinners out with friends. It could mean a whole plethora of things that you are currently doing in your day-to-day life that you really enjoy, but you might have to start reducing them if you want to lose further weight. So before you embark on making further changes, you really need to ask yourself, are those changes going to be worth it? Are they going to affect the quality of my life and the enjoyment that I'm getting from my current life? And more importantly, are you going to be able to sustain those changes for life? You see, whatever you do to ultimately lose the weight, you have got to sustain it for the duration of your life. You can't just make a couple of quick changes, lose a few pounds, and expect to keep those few pounds off by then going back to your old habits. Your old habits are what got you to that higher weight in the first place. And I mean, haven't you done that with literally every single diet you have ever followed over the course of your life? So the biggest thing we need to look at here is making sure that it's going to be sustainable, because if you make some unsustainable changes to lose a few pounds, well, you're defeating the whole purpose because you're just going to gain those few pounds back. So in this situation, what we really need to do is take a step back and really understand what is the overarching goal that we're trying to go for. And as with my practice and what I always recommend to people is that health is the ultimate goal. And you might think that your weight is a reflection of health, but the reality of the matter is that weight tells us nothing about your health. You see, the way that I define health is when you are living your bestest, healthiest, and most fulfilling life. And so you need to ask a few questions as to whether the changes you're about to make to lose some more weight is going to prevent you from your definition of health. Would things like counting calories be a part of your best life? Would things like exercising every day be a part of your best and most fulfilling life? Would spending less time with friends and family out at dinners and restaurants and various other things like that be a part of your best and most fulfilling life? I need you to be honest with yourself because you need to remember, again, this is for the duration of your life. These changes aren't something you can just make for a brief period of time and hope for the best. These are changes that you need to implement and continue to implement over the course and the duration of your entire life. And of course, life and life circumstances are going to change. Sometimes you're going to be able to implement more significant changes, and other times life circumstances just aren't going to allow for those changes to happen. So make sure you're honest with yourself and do an honest self-assessment before you engage in any kind of changes. Now, if you feel that, yes, I indeed can make some more changes, I am not living my bestest, healthiest, and most fulfilling life yet, well then awesome, that is fantastic, good for you, then you are on the right track, and now you can figure out what are the changes that are going to work for you and are going to be sustainable for your bestest and most fulfilling life. Ultimately, start with small little tweaks and changes, maybe adding a workout once a week, or maybe decreasing your calories, or preventing yourself from going out to dinner just one extra time per week. Make a small little tweak or change, something that you can maintain, and see how it goes. See if it actually is indeed sustainable for you. And of course, remember to be patient because further weight loss is going to come slower and slower and is not going to happen as fast as it did at the start, with or without medication. On the flip side, if you are kind of stuck in this paradigm where you're like, well, I need to lose more weight. In fact, I must lose more weight, but you don't think you can actually make any more sustainable changes for the long term, well, that again requires a bit more of a deeper self-assessment. You really got to ask yourself, why do I feel an undying need to lose more weight? What will another 10, 20 pounds actually do for my life? Is there something that I'm not doing right now that my weight is actually preventing me from doing? Or is it that I'm using my weight as something that is preventing me, or I think is preventing me from doing something, but the reality is it's more just I need to get out and actually go do it. Many people obsess about losing weight. There is this idea that they have created that if they lose X amount of weight or they reach X amount of weight, well, then they'll be healthy. Then they can be happy. But the reality is that they're not actually losing weight for themselves. They're losing weight for some kind of external factor, whether it's society or some other kind of messaging that they have gotten throughout their life. And I don't blame individuals for this because this is what we consider as internalized weight bias. This is the messaging that comes from years and years of society telling you that you need to look a certain way to be worthy of love and belonging. This is what you were given and programmed as a child, either from a parent or some other aspect of things, whether it was a sporting event or what have you, where you were told that this is what the ideal health or the ideal worthiness level needs to be at, and you need to attain it in order for you to be a part of that group. And so people will ultimately create all of the stories and ideas that they need to in order to rationalize and to tell themselves why they need to reach this weight. They'll say it's because of health, it's because of this, or what have you, but ultimately it is because of some external factor that is driving it and not because of what they actually want. So I hope that has ultimately given you a lot to think about. A weight loss plateau, we need to do a bit more investigation and we need to really do a bit more of a self-assessment before you actually engage in any kind of behavioral changes to start helping you to lose more weight. In particular, we need to ask, why do we need to lose more? Why do we need to bust through this weight loss plateau? Because ultimately, it is going to require you to attain a calorie deficit again more consistently, and those changes need to be sustainable for you to keep that weight off. And please remember, a weight loss plateau doesn't occur just after 1 week. It is a period of at least 4 weeks of you continuing to be consistent, not having one bad week and then binging on the weekend, having another bad week, again binging on the weekend. It has to be consistently grinding away at your same level of behaviors and changes that you have made up to that point in time to really define it as a weight loss plateau. And remember that whatever changes you make need to be sustained for life, because that is the ultimate key here. We need to be doing things that are going to be sustainable for us, because life is too short to be bloody miserable. You need to be able to enjoy it. You need to be able to make sure you're having a good time and living your bestest, healthiest, and most fulfilling life. And if that is not the case, if the changes are not going to be doable for you, well, you got a little bit more work to do on the inside there. So that is it, and that is all, you beautiful people. As always, don't forget to check me out on my other channels at The Official Dr. Dan. If you got some kind of value out of this video, please subscribe, share, and like the video, and feel free to leave any comments down below, and I will do my best to answer them. And further, if you would like to book a consultation with myself, you can check out the link on my homepage of my YouTube channel at The Official Dr. Dan. If you happen to be in the Alberta area, you can definitely book in with me at my obesity clinic. It is a pharmacist-led obesity clinic in Calgary, Alberta. You can book with myself and we can do a full front-to-back assessment and see how we can support you along your weight management journey. And as always, and as I always say, always remember that small tweaks lead to massive peaks.